Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. So, as you're joining us, would you please type in the chat box where you're joining from? If you would just post the name of your city and state, that would be awesome. Just post where you are joining from, if you don't mind. Post where you are joining from. Post where you're joining from. Thank you all for joining. So good evening. I'm Dr. Cathy Owens-Oliver, and thank you so much for joining tonight. Welcome to the Teachers Lounge. I've been doing this on Tuesday and Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's just an opportunity for me to provide encouragement and inspiration to teachers all across the country who have suddenly found themselves in classrooms without walls. I'm certainly trying to take my 25 years of teaching experience and the 46 states I've worked in and all the work I've done as a high school classroom teacher, adjunct faculty for various colleges and universities, the national organizations that I've worked for over time. I just want to take all of my expertise and everything that's in my teacher toolkit to give back and help you all during this difficult time. If you want to get in touch with me directly, you can write to me at info@DrCathyO.com, info@DrCathy, the letter O.com, and I'd be happy to respond to you and take your questions and also take your suggestions and feedback about these live in the Teachers Lounge meetings we've been having every Tuesday and Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I have been getting feedback from some classroom teachers, some school leaders and administrators, some student teachers as well, and I've certainly had parents and friends that I know to contact me to make recommendations for some of the things that they want me to address and some of the things that are going on. If this is your first time joining me, we've been talking about several different ideas, tips, tools, and strategies to help teachers be successful during this time. We talked about not sweating the software and just getting that camera running so that you can bring your A game to the screen to help your students. We talked about understanding their different world, what you see in the background of the homes of some of these students, as well as students for whom you can't even see the background because of their living environments and circumstances and the lack of equity and access across the country. We also talked about AAA applying assessment alternatives and different ways to measure student growth along the way. I did get some constructive feedback the other day where someone said that they felt something that I shared was geared towards students who really do have equity and access, and I had to remind them that I had addressed that in another session, but I want to deal with some of that tonight as well. Our focus for tonight is everybody gets a gift. GIFT is an acronym for what I'll be sharing tonight. Everybody gets a gift. Let me just share with you just a little bit of the appalling statistics. Some of you may not really know the data, especially if you are parents or working citizens who aren't connected to the education field. You really may not be aware of how desperate and abysmal this online teaching situation is just across the United States. I can't even speak for other countries, but I think there is an assumption that when schools closed across the country due to this pandemic, that everybody would just go home and log into their computers and get the teaching and learning that they need there. And that most certainly is not the case. The federal data from 2017, that's the latest data that I have. I'm expecting some new data to come out from 2019, but the data that we have from the last couple of years from the National Telecommunications and Info Administration reports that 14% of children kindergarten through 12th grade do not have access to the internet at home. 14%. Now, on a scale of 100, that sounds like it's not a lot, but I want you to know that is 7 million children in the United States. 7 million children in the United States of America do not have access to the internet at home at all, on any device, in any shape, form, or fashion. 7 million. 17% of the adults in the United States use the internet or access it solely on a smartphone. 17%. I want you to pause for a moment and think about how appalling these numbers are. You may have heard me say in some of these Teachers Lounge conversations earlier how I have seen so many of the children in my neighborhood spending too much time outside. I'm laughing a little because once a teacher, always a teacher. And I know that in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, teachers are required to spend so much time during the day with students, and students are required to be online for direct instruction for a certain period of time. So for several periods throughout the day, when I'm looking out my office window and noticing children outside for extended periods, I'm wondering, are they getting instruction? What's going on? Are parents voluntarily allowing them to miss class online? And when I looked at this data that 7 million children in this country do not have access to the internet, it was an eye-opener for me. It made me think about what we take advantage of, what we take for granted. It made me think about how disconnected we may be from some of the homes and or communities of some of the most needy children in this country. Even if you are not an educator, get involved in whatever needs to be done to decrease poverty in this country and provide service and assistance to the families, especially the children who need it the most. I've heard stories from different people who've been reaching out to me about what this looks like in different parts of the country. One of my friends in Florida was telling me a story about how children, even teenagers, are driving to restaurants or various public locations that have free Wi-Fi and parking outside or sitting outside so that they can access the internet for that building. In states and cities where we have a stay-at-home order, it's not that simple, because you may really be stopped by an authority to explain, is this essential travel? Are you going to the grocery store, the doctor, or drugstore? No. How do you explain to them, I'm going to sit outside of McDonald's or Food Lion, ShopRite, Harris Teeter, Publix, whatever, Walmart Express, so that I can use the internet to do my work, to log on for class, to upload my assignments? And did you not hear me say this is K-12? So this is age 5 to 17 or 18. There are a lot of assumptions that we make about access and equity. Right now, we're all connected to each other through technology, internet, and Wi-Fi. But there are children all over the country who don't have that access. And I cringe to think about teenagers, adults, and perhaps even teachers who have internet limitations at home as well. So we just have to be very cognizant of what the data looks like so that we can understand better what teachers are really dealing with. And I have a different focus now on my concern for children who are getting packets of worksheets and materials, because I understand now that that has to supplement those who may not be getting the online instruction, even if they're in an environment where they should be. I got a story from another state where children are going from one person's home to another person's home, not even a family member, so that they can use the internet to do their work and to receive instruction. I got a story from another state where they have brought someone else's children to live with them. These are teachers. Teachers have taken in a few of their students to live with them because that is the only way they can ensure that these students receive instruction. Do you understand? We could talk about what the safety rules are right now and what everyone is doing to protect themselves, but I'm telling you right now, teachers are warriors. You all are really on the front line. I mean, I applaud you, us. I give you the kudos. And I'm just here willing to help in any way that I can to ensure your success. So again, if you need to contact me directly, my email address is info@DrCathyO.com. I want to hear what it is that you all want to discuss during these meetings. I certainly want you to post some of this in the chat box. And tonight I want to talk about everybody gets a gift. Everybody gets a gift. So you heard me say that we talked earlier about software. We talked about how to focus. We've talked some about student engagement and how to keep them engaged. And listen, bringing your A game to the screen. That's what's most important, that you're saying and doing something on screen with your students for those who are able to join you on screen, and being able to keep them engaged and excited about learning. And let me just say, for those that aren't joining online, you need to bring your A game for them as well, whether it's packets, whether it's material, whatever it is that you are doing. So everybody gets a gift. The G stands for good. Every student needs to feel good during this time. It seems that every day I'm getting some kind of notification that someone else has died or is suffering from COVID-19. It's a very daunting, difficult time. I do have very close contacts and acquaintances, friends, and extensions of my family in some of these hot spots across the country, to the point that, sometimes I don't even want to get a text. And understand that this is happening with our students as well. Students who have friends and family members in other parts of the country, or even in their own community and neighborhoods where they know someone is being affected by this virus. So we have to take that into consideration. I'm just not sure they care about the Pythagorean theorem right now when they're hearing that a grandmother, an aunt, and uncle, or whomever has been impacted by this disease. And I don't think I have to say this, but it's important for me to put this out there, that we have to release some of the pressure and meet children where they are. And truth be told, we have to meet teachers where they are as well. I think teachers need the support. You would not believe the educators who have reached out to me this week to tell me about anxiety, about headaches, about not being able to sleep at night, insomnia, nightmares. Adults that I know who are educators or parents are saying how stressed and anxious they are about this situation. They're afraid of the country opening back up in certain states. Have you heard that certain states will just open back up and go back to work? But parents are afraid about where they will send their children, if they feel comfortable about their children going back to school, if they feel comfortable with everything being back to usual. So everybody gets a gift, and the G is for feeling good. Do something to make your students feel good. I don't care what it is, within reason and what is appropriate. Do something that makes them feel good about being connected to you, either on screen or whatever other way that you reach out to them. I'll give you several examples of how to do this. The I in gift stands for keeping them included, making them feel included. Students who can't join online because they don't have Wi-Fi at home, what can we do to make them feel included? How can we keep them engaged? I've seen examples of that. The F in gift is for favored. Make students feel like you like them. Gone are the days of classroom teaching where we as teachers say, I'm not here to be your friend, and I don't care if you don't like me. I'm here to teach calculus, or I'm here to teach social studies. That day is gone. You're not even here to teach now. So we have to, whatever way that we can, get students engaged and make them feel loved, make them feel liked, make them feel favored. And then the T in gift is ensuring that your students feel teachable. Now, what I'm talking about is student-centered instruction. So tonight, my focus is really on what we can do that is focused on the students. I know we're in the teacher's lounge, and I think it's a time for us to decompress and share with one another, and I certainly want to hear that. So please post your comments and reach out to me. But I have to say, if ever we have embraced students in the education arena, we have to do it more now than ever before. So every student gets a gift. The G is for making them feel good. Do whatever makes them feel good. The I is for keeping them included. You can feel good but not be included. So we want to make them feel included. And I don't mean just inclusion from the perspective of exceptional needs or special education. I mean included in the sense that you want them to be involved in this classroom without walls. You miss them when they are not there. You're looking for them and expecting them to show up and be engaged. And then the F is for favored. They need to know you like them. Listen, teachers, even if you don't, I'll be honest and say my 25 years of teaching, I had a fruitcake in every class, and I had those as like, please, could you please drop out of my class and join someone else? I've dealt with that even with the college students that I teach. This is a real world, and I'm a realist. But during this really difficult, troubled time across the country in this pandemic, you want to make every student feel favored, not your favorite, but favored, like you like them and like you're concerned about what's going on with them, and you want to see them be successful. You want them to have a sense of accomplishment. And then the last thing is teachable. They have to feel teachable, not you making them be teachable. They have to feel like they can learn, they can engage, they can understand what it is you're trying to deliver. And I support the standard course of study. I understand the standard curriculum. I understand that a lot of us are using pacing guides and lessons where we're supposed to be in a certain place at a certain time. But right now, during this real world environment, you have to bring real world engagement to the screen and make sure that you're connecting your instructional decisions to students' real lives. That's in terms of the topics, the concepts, the content, and just taking an interest in who they are. Just talk to them, let them talk back to you. Don't have another online class where you don't have every student saying something, posting in the chat box, but saying something verbally if they have internet access, and keeping in mind that some of them are not on their Mac or their laptop or their HP. They may be on a smaller device. They may be on a phone borrowed from a parent. They may not be on the phone at all. They may be at someone else's house. They may be in a car or on a bike outside a place that has free Wi-Fi. We have to take all of this into consideration. So you ask, that sounds really good, Dr. O, but how am I supposed to get that done? This is the time to be the most creative that you have ever been. Take some time to write down 10 things you could do, would do, should do in this challenging technology environment that's going to give every student a gift, that's going to make every student feel good, included, favored, and teachable. I've seen awesome things on television, and I've gotten great feedback from friends out there, and I have done some of this myself as well. Because once a teacher, always a teacher. So I'm always involved in the gifting aspect of whatever it is that improves schools and extends learning. So I know of the examples, and you've heard about teachers driving by students' homes just to wave at them. Listen, you may need to get out and do some home visits. It can't hurt. I posted something on my Facebook page today that I saw online where two teenagers drove to their grandparents' home and blasted this music in their car while their grandparents came out on the porch and started dancing. You might have to do that kind of drive-by as a teacher. I mean, how awesome would it be for a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old to be standing on the porch yelling out to you their ABCs and spelling words or whatever it is that you've given them in their vocabulary? You're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to go back to good old-fashioned Valentine's Day, where you've got to make a card out of construction paper, a little red heart, and put it in the mailbox of all your students, or the students you know, or the students that are missing, the students who aren't showing up, the students who show up but aren't fully present, and the students who can't show up at all because they don't have access to an online environment. Those are the ones who need to hear from you the most. This is the time to go back to good old-fashioned letter writing, where you're writing a little note to your students. One of my friends is a principal in Maryland, and she wrote sentences on all of the poster boards, you know how people are doing that, and held it up for them to read her comments while she just looked at them and made faces. And I think that that was so awesome. She put it on the school's webpage, and she shared that with a lot of students who were able to access it. But what about the students who aren't able to access it? You've got to write those same notes on a sheet of paper, and you've got to mail it to your kids. I think a couple of the teachers may need to get in your cars, still social distancing, and do a few drive-bys to shout out to your students, to give a wave, to say something nice, and to make them feel good. while you are on screen, for those of you who are, make sure that you're pointing out something about every one of those students that makes them feel included and loved. Have you read Parker Palmer's book about the courage to teach and teaching from the heart and let your life speak? That's what Paulo Freire calls the hidden curriculum. What does your life speak to your students? And how do you bring your life to the screen? How do you bring it to the mailbox? How do you bring it to an email? How do you bring your life to a text message in a way that imparts knowledge and hope to our students? I think today is the first time that I really put teachers in the category of some of the medical professionals who are really showing up and being heroes every day. I think that teachers are having to go to great lengths to get instruction out to your students. And so give yourself a break. You've heard me say that before. Instruction is not just what's in the lesson plan, the standard course of study, or what you have planned for a particular time frame. Instruction is everything that you impart to students that make them feel good about themselves and about learning and about the situation, despite some of the negativity in their environment and in this world. The way you make them feel included, how you instill a sense of belonging, the research about teenagers and suicide rates and drug and alcohol abuse and excessive involvement in things that are negative. A lot of that research is connected to teenagers not feeling a sense of belonging. I could go on and on with my own stories about high school students that I taught who committed suicide, who were shot, who were involved in things that totally reset the trajectory in a negative way for their lives. So showing students that they're included, that they have a sense of belonging, that they are not alone, and that they're not dealing with difficult situations all on their own is really, really critical during this time. And I have to tell you, I think you already know this. We're not, as students aren't going to be interested in learning about, symbolism in the Scarlet Letter when they're dealing with the loss of a loved one or this pending fear of what could happen to them and their loved one. So all of this has to be taken into consideration when you bring your A game to the screen. Push your lesson plan aside and just talk. Just listen. Let them get it out. I think it's also important in terms of the favorite part that you're creative about how you show students that you like them. It's a difficult time because you can't touch, you can't spend that quality time with them. So just get creative about whatever it is that you can do, what you might have delivered to them. And you heard me say earlier, a card, a letter. I certainly don't want a single one of my students to not get a birthday card in the mail from me during this particular time. It's just a creative thing that I do. And for those of you who are in Christian education, you're working in a Christian or parochial school, or you're working in a more traditional Sunday school, religious environment, or Christian daycare, or something from that perspective, even in the ministry, you can use these same strategies to make sure the students are still on target, that they still feel included, that they still feel connected to you. That is so important. So let me just tell my story. Wow. I remember I always use my own childhood when I work with teachers to talk about stories. One of the assignments that I give the college students that I teach, so I teach a group of college students, a cohort who are career switchers. So they're moving from a non-education related job into teaching. And I have that introduction to pedagogy course. And I have all of them to write sort of a half-page profile of themselves as a learner, K through 6. So they have to pick a grade, kindergarten, first grade, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever it is. And they have to write a profile of who they were as a learner during that time. And I have them talk about in our class discussion, What is it that they wish their teacher had known and would have done better or differently to accommodate their needs? You would be appalled at some of the responses that I have received. And it makes me think of myself as a young learner and what I wish teachers knew about me as a young person. I wish some of them knew that I knew at age 3 that I wanted to be a teacher, and that's the only thing in life I ever wanted to do. I wish they had known that I was watching every move they make, everything that they do, the way they dress, how the classroom is decorated, just how the rapport they had with us as students, or the lack thereof. I wish they knew that I was collecting all of that data, even as a young child, based on what kind of teacher I wanted to be. What is it about you in your own life, if you would think back on your K through 6th grade year as a learner, that you wish teachers knew about you then, that would have in some way made that experience different? When you conceptualize that for yourself, it really does have an impact on your practice right now. And so you bring all of that to bear in your own classroom. That's really important. So every student gets a gift in this classroom without walls. They need to feel good about what they're doing. They need to feel good about who they are. They need to feel good about their environment, even meager and limited circumstances. And they need to get that feel goodness. I'm an English teacher. I can make words up. They need to get that from you. Gift. Every student feeling good about themselves. The I, you heard me say earlier, is included. How are you keeping them included in this classroom without walls, even those who don't have a device or might just be using a phone? What measures can you take? What is it that you can do to keep them connected, even if and when they're not connected to each other? How might you keep them connected to you? And then the F is favored. Just show them that you like them. Show them that you're concerned about them, that you love them, that you care about them. Teach with heart, whether it's a birthday card, whether it's a Valentine's Day card. And I know it's not Valentine's Day. I'm saying be creative about how you reach out to them and how you let them know that you're concerned, that you care about them and what's going on with them. And then the T is ensuring that they're teachable. Now, you've heard me say before, teach like a champion. Teach with fire. You can read both of those books. Maybe before this Teacher's Lounge experience is over, I'll do a book talk on a couple of these books so you won't have to go and read them. I'll give you the primer version. But it is so important that your teaching is with fire and with passion and with engagement. I saw a teacher on Good Morning America, and she had turned her living room into a classroom. So she had everything, manipulatives and everything. And then she had posters and charts on the wall for math class. And she started singing, "It's time for math. It's time for math. Everybody get ready. It's time for math." And so she had her students singing along with her, "It's time for math." And I thought it was cute and it was really engaging, even for me watching as an adult. Now, let me tell you, K through 6 is not my forte. I have said it to my friends all along. K through 6 is not my forte. I'm much more of a 14-year-old and up type teacher, secondary background, high school, but you still have to make learning fun and engaging and those kinds of things. So what are you saying? I'm saying give your students a break, give yourself a break, and do whatever you can to give them a gift, to make them feel good, to make them feel included, to make them feel favored, and let them know that they're teachable. Last thing, don't teach from a deficit model. What I do with my college students that works with high school, middle school, and elementary school is to just tell them up front, everybody gets an A. You have those who are concerned about what the outcome is going to be. Everybody gets an A. Everyone in here is an achiever unless you convince me that you're not. Sometimes flipping the script in that way gives everyone an even playing field to start on. Everyone in that class, regardless of equity and access issues, they get an equal playing field. Everybody gets an A. We're all going to have the same outcome. And the only way that anything's going to be different is that if you convince me through your behavior and your performance and assignments that you don't deserve it. So that's a great approach to take with them so that they worry less about getting all the work done and focus more on just showing up and being a part of the learning that you're going to make as active and engaging as you possibly can. So Let me scroll to my screen here really quick. I have about 2 minutes left. I want to know if any of you have questions. Any of you have questions? Let's see. I'm looking at the towns that you all are joining from. Thank you so much. Post in the box, the chat box, or make a post of where you're from, the city and state. Sometimes it's not an income issue. In some areas still where internet isn't available due to being in such a rural area, it's progressed a lot, but several areas are still without internet and cable access. Absolutely. If you look back at the research from the federal government, it explains that a lot of those areas are rural areas. So access issue is because access really isn't available. It's not just so much that it's not available to them as individuals. I'm thinking about all the times that I have driven across Nebraska, South Dakota, some places in Utah for work, and what it's like there in a rural environment. And I think for many of you, it's been a long time since you've been somewhere and your cell phone signal dropped, but I experience that all the time when I'm in some of the much more rural areas for my other work. So that is an important piece as well. But what are we going to do to keep those students engaged? What are we going to do to give them the gift? What do we do to make sure that they're included? I would love to have more of a conversation about this. Please write to me. I want to share ideas. I want to hear from teachers what it is that you are doing. So remember, here's the gift. Try this out tomorrow. It's Friday. Make sure that every student that you're connected with in an online environment tomorrow, or that you reach out to by phone, listen, good old-fashioned telephone, call students. Someone said to me today, listen, I am calling every single one of my students. I want to talk to them. I just want to have a conversation. It's not about the schoolwork. It's not about their grades. I just want to talk to them about whatever they want to talk about. I do that with the college students that I teach. I did it with my high school students when I was a high school teacher. I had a one-on-one 15-minute interview with all of them. I didn't know it was life coaching at the time. I know now that that's what it was. So whatever you can do to keep them engaged, to ensure that everybody gets a gift. So start this tomorrow. It's Friday. Every student gets a gift. You're going to do something that makes them feel good about themselves. You're going to ensure that they feel included in whatever you're doing in class, whatever class is, whether they're online or unable to get online, whether they're working on sample packets and learning materials that have been sent in the mail, whether they're in a special chat group, whatever platform you're using. Every child needs to feel included. The F is for favored. You're going to make sure that that child knows that you're concerned about them, that you care about them, that you like them, that you're concerned. And listen, concerned about their real world and whatever it is that they're dealing with in their home. Maybe a dog died. Maybe it's their birthday is coming up. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that they feel favored by you, like you're taking out special time to spend with them. I know that's easier to do when you have 10 or 12 or 6 as opposed to 28 or 30, but do whatever you can to make that happen during this season of Classroom Without Walls. And then the last one is teachable. We have to get to the instruction part. One of the mistakes we sometimes make is teaching our content without the realization of teaching the person. So I say to my students all the time, you're not teaching Greg and Monica and Michelle. You are teaching science and math, and you're not teaching science and math and social studies. You are teaching Greg and Monica and Michelle. If you think of it that way, I'm teaching Kathy. I'm not just teaching calculus. I'm teaching Kathy. I'm teaching calculus to Kathy. That's how you have to approach your work with every student. It makes it more connected. It is very difficult to teach students without really knowing something about their background and what's really going on in their heads. And the only way to know that is to really deal with them one-on-one, okay? Everybody gets a gift, feeling good, feeling included, feeling favored, and feeling teachable. Thank you so much for joining in tonight. I appreciate it. Tell every teacher, parent, educator that you know, school principals and administrators to join me on Facebook Live at DrCathyO at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesdays and Thursdays every week. Have a good evening and have a great weekend.